Good morning to our On the Couch followers. Thank you for joining us this morning, where you will get vital content on this platform for our Black and Brown community. It is a wonderful Saturday. It is beautiful out, and there are a whole bunch of celebrations going on for Juneteenth. I cannot wait to get out there myself. There are a lot of celebrations going on, such as one in Willingboro. There is one also in Bordentown and many other towns around in our communities. But this morning we are going to have a special guest on, Miguel Williams. He'll be talking about men mental health awareness because it is the month of men's mental health awareness. And also, we'll be talking about what happens when we have a loved one that goes into hospice. But before we do that, I'm going to bring them my co-hosts on as well as our special guests. So let's get started with On the Couch. Good morning, Miguel. Thank you for joining us. Toya, how you doing? And
Good
Shell,
morning.
Morning.
how y'all doing, everybody? How's
Good
your week
morning.
going? Anything
Good.
new for this week?
Nothing new for him.
Nothing new. Okay, so you all, I see that Toya, you out there on site somewhere out there, beautiful scenery behind you. So where are you? Share that with us. What are you doing?
I'm actually in Connecticut for a potentate and daughter ball, so I'm on location in New Haven.
Okay.
Beautiful.
New Haven.
And I'm loving the background because there's palm trees, so it's giving me you know, the facade that I'm out in the beach in Jamaica where I love to be. I just need the blue crystal water, so I'm blessed to be here despite the rain.
Yeah, it did come down pretty heavy yesterday, but it was hot yesterday too. I believe it was like already like 92 or 93. So usually those thunderstorms, visit us at that point because it is very, very hot out, really. So I am looking forward to our show today, because it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But also, I'm just curious about what does everybody think about Juneteenth? These celebrations that are happening and when it came into effect for us. And do you partake in celebrating Juneteenth?
Yes, I do. And I just want to just jump in real quick. It was interesting because we had 12 holidays. So initially we only had Martin Luther King. So what they did now to help us, the brown people, now it's a mandatory observance. But the thing was interesting that it had the 19th or the 21st, which one I want to pick. I said, I'm going to pick the 19th. So I said, now it's going to help the other folks. So I thought that was interesting because last year on our calendar, it was the actual day, depending on how it flew. But this year, so now you're going to give the other folks a 4-day weekend, who don't. You get what I'm saying? So I thought that was interesting, but I'm for it. But now it's a mandatory holiday for my organization, which I like the progression.
Yes, me too. It's a mandatory holiday. It's like the third Friday of, June. But, it takes so much for us to get holidays for certain things, it's I think it's just society. We just have to fight for everything. If you go back in time, they had to fight for even Martin Luther King holiday, that. But we have Columbus, who didn't celebrate a thing, not celebrate, but he didn't discover a thing. He didn't even know where he was going, but yet he has a day. And all of these other folks that have days. But I'm glad that there are such holidays like Cinco de Mayo, Juneteenth, because we deserve those holidays and also to have a day of Jubilee. So for us, this is our Jubilee. And I hope that you all, enjoy your day. And those that are listening to us today, and those that'll catch up with us later on, please go out and enjoy these festivities because we deserve it and we deserve to come together and enjoy each other and have fun, so I'm looking forward to the day. So Miguel, you are joining us today, and I know you're going to fill us in with some wonderful information. But before you do that, can you give us and those that are listening to us some background about you and how did you end up in the field that you are currently in?
Yes, good morning again. Um, Miguel Williams. I'm a licensed social worker here in New Jersey. My career has been an interesting one in the field of human and social services. Started off in psych, so that has been my passion to work with patients who are mentally ill, whether that be in the community, whether that be in homes, whether that be in a locked, secure unit. I have worked the spectrum and have done the spectrum of work from community into facilities. Um, Fast forward to where I am now, currently work in private practice, and I do that part time. And I also am a medical social worker in a hospice program. So I always say I get the pleasure of working and the honor of working with people at the end of their life. It is a very sacred time and it is a very vulnerable time. And anyone who does the work in social work or counseling, they know and understand how vulnerable someone has to be to allow you into their space as they're transitioning from this life.
Yeah. And that's pretty heavy that you took on such a task as that. And I know that we will delve into that conversation also, because I do want to check in and see what do you do for yourself, because that's pretty heavy when you're dealing with that. But also from your background, when you came from, those that have, severe mental health issues, that's also a lot too, because you're dealing with issues of those that, that have some severe problems. But what drew you into social work?
What drew me into social work? I never thought I would be a social worker. I have to be honest. My undergraduate degree is in criminal justice, and I thought I was going to be busting doors down with the FBI somewhere, and really just watched my parents' career. You know, my father, who was in the military, and my mother's career in juvenile corrections. I thought that that's where I was going to end up. However, going through my program, I realized a lot of my professors were actually psychologists. They were practitioners of social and human behavioral sciences. So, looking at the expertise that they brought to the classroom, I said I wanted to go a little deeper. So where that led me, I remember going onto a college campus. I went to Stockton. At the time, it was the Richard Stockton College of New Jersey. Now it is Stockton University. And I ended up just as a space filler on my schedule in a clinical neuropsychology course.
Mm.
First time on this 4-year campus. I transferred there from a community college. What am I doing in this classroom? um, was completely uncomfortable as a professor. I still remember her, Dr. Gator. She gets up there, she talks about this book that she uses with her graduate students. I say, yeah, ma'am, can you write me out of this class? I need you to sign this paper because I was just here as a space filler. Now it's a drop ad period. And thank you for doing your introduction, but I got to go. He said, no, no, no. Do you think I'm good at what I do? I said, You're absolutely, you probably are amazing at what you do, but I'm not going to be here to see all of the amazing things that you are going to do in this class. She said, well, she asked me what my major was. And I told her, I said, criminal justice. She said, I want you to stay in this class. And I guarantee you that if you apply yourself and you study, you will come out of this course with an A. And I'm going to teach you that what this class is about, it's about the human brain and how you will utilize that as a practitioner in the criminal justice field. That was the best decision that I made to stay in that class because it completely changed the trajectory of my life. She connected me with my first job. Um, Out of undergrad, I was working with traumatic brain injury um, clients in the community. They were in group homes. So it was her recommendation to go apply for this job. I went and applied for two similar positions. One of the programs, she was a vital key player in helping design the program. I did not get that job, but that led me to the other job that I got, which was a similar program in the community. So, how I got to social work, long story short is Dr. Christine Gator. I don't know if she's still teaching over there at Stockton. I have run into her, but she, as a clinical neuropsychologist, said social work will be the, if you want to get your feet wet in practice, go pursue social work, because you, instead of, the route that psychologists have to take of the whole PhD studies and, taking these written and all of the examinations that they have to do, a clinical social work degree allowed me to get in the field a lot quicker than what my colleagues in psychology do. Now, there are things that social workers cannot do that psychologists can do, so you have to choose what's right for you. But social work absolutely was a calling for me. And I've always done social work, grew up in a family that was doing social work. I just didn't have the language and did not know that that's what it was called.
Yes, so you were already doing it. A lot of us that, gravitate to the helping field, because that's what it is. Medical is a helping field, going into the world of psychology or counseling is also a helping field. It's just a lot, and you don't realize that you are the person that must go into that field. Because I say must is because you have the temperament for it. You have to have the temperament and the know-how to get involved with those that need help and identify what type of help that they need. So it is a lot of work to understand the brain, because you're understanding what happens to a person when they break down. Just if we think about just depression, what happens when that person breaks down mentally, and what will cause them to become depressed. In simple language, it's just simply overly sad, where you have no reason behind why you're doing that. So leading into this discussion, let's now look at what happens when we think about men in therapy. What is that like for men, and why do they don't go as much as women do? And then, we'll focus on our communities too and see what that looks like when we look at numbers. But what do you think about that? Men and therapy.
Excellent question. When in preparing for today, I actually did some research on the top 5 things to know about Black men's mental health in honor of June being Men's Mental Health Awareness. Um, and I don't want to get too far off your questions, but the 5 things in our time together, I want to make sure that I can cover. The first point being disproportionate exposure to stressors, underutilization of mental health services, the cultural stigma and masculinity norms that men face, impact of historical trauma, and the need for culturally competent care. So ask me that question one more time so that I could focus in on your question.
Okay, so the question is, why do Black men, well, if I focus on just the gender itself, so men, why do men refrain from going into therapy? What's keeping them away, you think? And why they don't seek services as much as women?
Absolutely. So I think back to those 5 things that I just mentioned. So starting off with disproportionate exposure to stressors. When we think about men,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of what I didn't share in my introduction, an important part of my journey. I'm currently a doctoral candidate at Morgan State University, where my research focuses on Black men's mental health,
Yes.
grief and loss, and end of life. So, speaking specifically, because I am a Black man, so I'm going to focus on Black men often face unique stressors, including systemic racism,
Mhm.
discrimination, and socioeconomic disparities, which significantly impacts our mental health. These chronic stressors, they lead to high rates of mental health illness like depression and anxiety. Um, and if I can share just quickly a story about
Mhm.
this, recently worked with someone who was facing significant life stressors. I mean, being hit in every domain of their life. They scheduled an appointment with and this is a black man, scheduled an appointment with their primary care physician, felt like they needed an immediate appointment just to process and talk with their medical provider about what had been going on. So they get to the provider, of course, booking I guess an emergency appointment with your primary care physician. They don't always have the immediate opening. So this person is faced with a provider in the practice that does not know them or their history. But they were able to get the appointment. So the positive there is they see the medical provider. Medical provider comes in the room. At this time, the medical provider does not know that this person is a mental health practitioner. The medical assistant goes through the GAD-7 with them. For those that don't know what the GAD-7 is, it's a scale assessing anxiety. So person is going through the motions of the appointment. Provider is an Indian woman who asks the person what it is that they're seeking. Person expresses what they're seeking out of this appointment, what support they feel that they need. The individual, as a mental health practitioner, did not feel they could do the work that they were doing. They needed time off from work.
Okay.
The medical provider says, well, we don't often put people out of work, for these circumstances. I hear that you're stressed. However, let's explore medication. When this person is explaining that to me, right, immediately my mind goes to, why are we exploring medication? Because even if we place a person on psychotropic medication, they may still not be able to function in the workplace and in the places where they need to be in everyday life.
Right.
However, the medical model is taught and they focus on medications that will change the chemistry of your body. You could have a reaction to the medication. Now, this person was able to get the time off that they needed. The mental health field it can be a tough field when you're constantly, whether you're a therapist who sees clients virtually or you're in a private practice where you're in an office. That black man asked for what he needed and was not seen or heard until he was in his medical provider's office in tears saying, I need a break.
Right.
But the provider immediately went to medication. So I just share that story just to talk about and highlight at a time where we're preparing for Juneteenth celebrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our pain as Black men is not often seen. Our pain as Black men is not often heard. So when you talk about the disproportionate exposures to stressors, as a Black man, I'm supposed to find a way through it, support my family through it, not cry about it, not ask for help, but according to whose standard?
Right. Well, society. Society standard is for the Black woman and the Black man. We are not supposed to show emotion. Therefore, those that are serving us, even in the medical field, are not meeting what we're asking for. Your story, I'm glad you were able to give us a real story for us to discuss, because there's a lot of things that I find so wrong with everything that just happened with the person that you would think will be more empathetic to him because a woman and then she's Indian. However, that was not the case. And I say that because the world looks at Black people so differently. The world. I'm not saying, just here in New Jersey. We know the world looks at us so badly. We have all of these stereotypes that we have to come up against. And it's so unfortunate that he had to go to that extent to get people to say, look at me, I'm mentally hurting, because he was breaking down mentally, because it turned into a mental burnout for him. From what the way you're describing his story, it became a mental burnout. And all he was asking for is to reset by getting support. So if I'm wrong for that, stating that, just let me know, Miguel, if I'm going the wrong way. But that's what it seems like. He really needed just someone to say to him on the medical side, as your practitioner, I'm going to support you. I also like the fact what you said was, you were alluding to it, that it is important that the practitioners know who we are when we walk into that room. They do need to know our backgrounds, what we do for a living, and know the impact of what our jobs can have on us. And as medical professions, you would think they know better, but I'm going to tell you, from those working in the medical field, we are the worst patients, but because we are not even taking care of our own selves. So how do you suggest to another? You know what I mean? And I hate to say it that way, but I'm saying it so we can have other people understand his story and why that actually happened. And I do believe, okay, society plays a big role, where his voice was this tiny that nobody can hear it.
Absolutely. And even, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in, just in reference for me, additionally working with Black men. Also, in my family, we're a military family. So you have to think combat veterans. They forget that. You don't know what the background is. So here is to the point of this person is identifying that. But for me, I feel like there's a script with everything. Why is pharmacology the first thing to address? What if he would take something and that changes his whole being? How can I function when you're flat? You ever notice that sometimes when you're heavily medicated, that can change the essence of this person? And I just, even though I am a female, when I lost a job, but that's what happened. They put me on medication. This is what they do. They want to put you on medication. You say, for example, a woman with PTSD, but it happens with us in our family. If you give us as a first resort, they're not going to do the treatment because they're not going to like how they feel. And as you know, Miguel, as everyone on this chat is going to say, that when a person takes a medication, it may turn them off from the therapy. Start with the first small step, which is talking to someone to really feel that. Because if you do the medicine first, they're going to run. And most of the time, from my experience working with Black men, they will never get the treatment ever again. It'll turn them off. You made me feel weird. Right or wrong, Miguel. Medication is not the first step. You need to talk first. Right. But what happens is the referral, that's an easy fix. And most of the time, especially in New Jersey, there's no opening for any qualified or very good therapists. So the men are starting the first time, open them up. Okay, I need help. They come there and do the first step. Then if they get the wrong next step, then they may never come again.
I agree. And I do want to expand on one of the points a little further, that proud of this person for being empowered in a moment, even under the stress that he was under, to say, you administered the GAD-7. On what basis are you trying to medicate me? Because now I need to let you know that I am a mental health provider, and I know what I scored on that, and it is not indicative of any of the assessments that you gave me is not indicative of depression or anxiety. He scored very minimal on both of the assessments that I believe he was administered the GAD-7 and the PHQ-9. So he knew enough to pay attention to when that medical assistant was administering the assessments, and then kept that in his back pocket, waited for an opportune moment to say, no, I'm actually an expert in this field myself. And part of what I do as a therapist is some of the clients that I work with I'm the therapist sometimes. So he was so empowered that he was able to challenge, in a healthy way, to challenge and really talk about his needs and say, well, if you're medicating me for depression or anxiety, I really don't rise to the level of, yes, I may have had some moments of sadness and some depressed moods, but we're not talking about clinical depression. We're not talking about generalized anxiety to the point where I need medication. Why are we going there first? You didn't even ask me if I had a therapist. And as the therapist, I didn't receive, any phone calls for collateral information or anything of that nature. So very proud that this is a person that can advocate for himself. That is what we
Yes.
work on in sessions, to feel in
Mhm.
that moment as a Black man, disempowered, feel like your voice isn't heard, already dealing with burnout, but to still open your mouth and say, all right, doctor, you're crossing into a lane where I'm the expert. So let me educate you on, my background and what I know from the things that, the tests and things that we're going through in this office today. So, and the other point that you made, Ms. Toya, is that men don't always have the access that they need to a qualified mental health provider.
Yeah.
You are absolutely correct, because people often want to see people that look like them. My
Mhm.
own therapist, because although I do this work, I have my own therapist is a
You
Black
have to. You have to
man.
dump. Have to.
Mhm.
So I say that to say, shameless plug, if there is anyone who out there who is looking, I do private practice and I currently have openings. I can be found on Psychology Today. I can share my contact information, and Dr. Diamond let me know, when it's appropriate to do that. But I can make sure that people have this information so that if they're needing to reach out and be connected, even if that's not with me, even if that's a consultation and to be linked with someone, who is a fit for them, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, those that are listening to us today, just note that when you go on the couch on Facebook, we have the link. I've now put the link up of Psychology Today, because several of us are on Psychology Today that are on the couch. So as you hear Miguel talking about being on Psychology Today, please look him up. I am also there. Rajanta is also there. Sanella is also there. So it is very important that we are out there showing our faces as Black clinicians, that we are there. It is very far and in between, but we are there. And for our brothers that are out there, Miguel is telling you, right, like, if you are not getting what you need, but you need to find someone that look like you, don't fall to the wayside if you think you can't find, you know, him out there, because Miguel is out there. There are other brothers are out there that are clinicians. There are websites with just men in therapy. I've also seen Black men in therapy. So there are websites everywhere that you have to just go and explore. But consistency is the key. So, Miguel, I want you to elaborate on consistency and the importance of that when you are in therapy for our brothers. What are they supposed to be doing, and why stay consistent?
Yeah, so showing up is half the battle. In order to, let's take the medical model for a second, um, because although they do not do everything well, we can relate to, if you are in chemotherapy, you absolutely should show up for your treatment and you will get the results that you need, or we're hoping that you get the results that you need from showing up to receive that chemotherapy. Excuse me. The same with therapy. You need to show up to your appointments in order to feel that psychological relief. What we are doing on our end as the mental health professionals, whatever we are, social workers, counselors, um, we are working with evidence based research to provide an intervention. We are not simply talking, we are not just simply listening. There is science that is going on in that therapeutic relationship. So consistency is going to be important in order to feel some type of relief from your symptoms.
Hmm. Hmm. When you're thinking about the right fit, so we think about consistency, then the right fit. How do we help those figure out how to determine if that therapeutic professional is the right fit for them? How?
I think that if they notice that you can't be honest, if you're
That
guarded,
is an
then that means that
excellent
that's not the
question.
right,
I
that's not for you.
always let my clients
Hmm.
know, let friends and family know.
Hmm. Keep going, Miguel.
Oh, my apologies. I always let
No.
anyone that I work with know, personal life, clients, interview your therapist. You need to interview your therapist. Just like we go on these directories and we want to find the best doctor of, if we're looking for an ENT, if we're looking for a podiatrist, you're looking at their track record. So
Hmm.
interviewing your therapist going to, at that point of consultation, most of us offer, and our profiles will say it, a free consultation.
Hmm.
So for me, I
Yes.
offer that free 15-minute consultation. I'm not a clock watcher, so if it goes a little bit over 15 minutes, just to make sure that we can be a good fit, I'm going to offer that consultation. So look for people that are willing to meet with you for a small period of time, just to review what it is that you're coming in for. In
Yes.
addition to that, ask the questions. If you're looking for a certain type of therapy, ask those questions. You are going to, this is an investment in yourself. So just as you go to an employer and you are being interviewed by them, I've always been taught that you are also interviewing that employer as well to find out if you want to be here. Are the benefits good? Is the time off good? You want to do the same thing with your therapist, because making that investment in you is going to make or break what it is that you're looking for. So being able to ask those questions, let's say you're looking for cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR, you want to make sure that that's something that therapist is offering. If not, they should be able to help link you to another colleague that can offer that type of service. I always say within the first 3 sessions, you should know if that's a good fit. If
Yeah.
not, as a professional, I do not take it personal. And most of my colleagues do not take it professional if a client says, this is just not a good fit. Can you help me get to someone who will better meet my needs? Or, I'm looking for something different. As a professional, we've heard it before, and it is our ethical
Mhm.
duty to make sure that we can
Mhm.
link you to the appropriate provider for you. It's not personal at all.
Exactly. It is not personal, and we shouldn't take it personal. Actually, it should be a level of growth for us and helping that person to get to someone that can help them grow. Because as a helper, you're helping them get to the right person if you have that particular referral that they need to go to. And I was going to ask you, yes, what interventions or modalities that you use to help Black men that you work with?
So there's power in assessment. One of the first things that I'm doing is assessing what brought you here and what is your life experience that brought you here. And what I mean by that is, have you dealt with systemic racism and oppression? And in what ways? Because we know that your outlook on life is shaped by your experiences. So,
Mhm.
assessment, that being an ongoing thing, we're talking about the presenting problem. What are you coming to therapy for? We're talking about what it is that what are you looking to gain from this? If you sought me out specifically, is there something that you saw in my profile, or specifically, what are you coming to me for? If it's, for grief and loss, we'll get there. We want to do the assessment. We want to talk about those things. As far as the different modalities that I use in and practice, I tend to use a combination of modalities. So CBT, trauma
Mm-hmm.
informed,
Mm-hmm.
humanistic, always operating from a strength based, trauma informed
Mm-hmm.
lens, never really asking what's wrong with you, more of what happened and what brings you here. Because asking what's
Yeah.
wrong with you is implying that something is wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Um, exactly. So here's the thing. Just like you, I do the same thing, combination of things. I don't do the cookie cutter type of therapy either. And especially for us, I think our people taught me what it would be like to what their needs are. So I find that trauma, especially because I work with a lot of Black women, I find that we are experiencing a lot of complex trauma. And I know you probably see that in Black men too, that we do experience complex trauma, how heavy that can be for us. So I usually start out like you, assessing and understanding them first, getting the background from them. And then I start presenting and talking about inner child work, because inner child work works very, very good for our community, black and brown community rather, because we have to go backwards, but to understand the inner child work and what that means, so there's no fear there, that you're going back into a time to understand, how did you become anxious? How did you become depressed? How did you become, have all of these other issues that you have going on with you? Sometimes you got to go backwards. So we all do. It's like history. You got to understand history so you can understand who you are going forward. So it's the same thing. And I, appreciate all the clients that I have worked with to understand, what fits them best. So like you, I do not just do the standard, well, let's do all CBT on everyone. I remember when I was in my practicum and internship, they only had one modality that they use in this particular practice. I was like, this is crazy, because it doesn't fit everybody, and it doesn't. You have to find what makes sense for each client. So you ended up doing that, so you do a combination of things.
Yes.
So I'm also curious about shame or embarrassment when it comes to therapy and Black men or men of color. Do you notice that? Is that something that stops them from refraining from therapy? If you ever listen to it in conversation wise, that's what I'm asking about.
So a lot of shame and embarrassment when Black men come into therapy. I'm not going to say always, but they are at a place where they realize and have identified that they can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I mentioned earlier about the top 5 things to know about, Black men's mental health, that cultural stigma and masculinity norms. So just referring to that for a second, their cultural beliefs and any norms about masculinity, this is where you see that start to show up. Do you feel weak because you're coming to therapy? Do you feel weak because you're needing to lean on someone and not always understanding the science behind it, right? Because if I break my arm, I know that I have a broken arm and I need to go get a cast. But I'm not
Right.
mentally feeling well, and people can't see that I'm not mentally feeling well. So I'm in this space with you as a professional, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to be getting out of this and what we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be doing. So that shame tends to be attached to cultural stigma and masculinity. They're in a very vulnerable place. And that is why I believe that they often seek out, we often as men will seek out a provider that looks like us, because I don't want to have to teach you about my life and my
Yes.
background for you to understand. So oftentimes some of the activities that I do early on is finish finish the statement. You know, you better be home before the street lights come on. We grew up hearing that, right?
Yes.
What happens here stays
Stays
here.
here.
Yep.
Yes.
And when
Mhm.
you connect with people, in that way, and they know that your mama was just like my mama and telling me,
That'll help them
these
open up.
things, and it helps them open up. So it
It
makes
does.
me, in practice, they see me as a person, and they know and start to understand that my therapist, in some ways, is just like me.
But Miguel, can you do some little research project for us? Because I just know, because I'm actually going to get back into one-on-one therapy. I mostly do groups now, I guess, when I hop into the field. But can you find out if they had a woman therapist, do they feel that they don't open up as much? I really want to know that. Since we have you, can
That's
you
a
just
good
do some
question.
loose statistics for us? Because I know sometimes I have to give little anecdotals for someone to open up to me. And I feel that it slows down what we could be working on in therapy. But they're coming in with that feeling, that stigma. Tell you, well, where I'm the same color as you, why can't I be able to be influential in your life? But you just gave you 2 weeks now that we wasted on you trying to really open up to me because you're guarded. And the only reason why I'm saying that now more so because my dad is a veteran. And now that I'm in my 40s and we're really talking now. So he calls me mama. But I feel that I said, well, daddy, I was trying to tell you that when I was younger, but now you see that. But why did it take 10 years for you to open up to think that you can listen to your daughter? Why is it that?
Yes, so we know in Black households that there's that hierarchy, right? And not challenging the hierarchy of the parents. What I will say is that there is research that shows that effectiveness, yes, a Black man can go and see a female therapist, whether it be Black or white. It's all about what they're looking for. So let's say that a Black man coming to see me, if I remind him of his father who was abusive, I may not be the best fit for that person. So if they feel like they want to see someone who's more maternal, someone that can pour into them in that way, let's say this is a 30-year-old Black man who's looking for that more maternal figure, they may feel more comfortable with someone else on this call, whether that be you, whether that be Dr. Diamond. Um, it's all about how they're connecting and what their history is saying. So that's why it's very important for me as a therapist to do that assessment in the beginning and find out what they've experienced. Did you come from a household where there was trauma, where there was domestic violence? Dr. Diamond talked about the inner child work. How I assess that is using the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. We all have them, some have more than others, but what was going on in your childhood? Because I don't believe that we, as practitioners of this work, neglect that child, no matter how old you are, presenting in front of me. There's something that may have happened to that child, even though you are a 30 or 40 or 50-year-old person in front of me. What did that 8-year-old know and believe about themselves? What were they told about themselves?
It just
Yes.
So
wasn't addressed.
assessment goes, back. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That
It's
was
peeling the
a great.
onion.
Yeah, it is peeling the onion, but that was an excellent question that you asked about, men and the female therapists and what does that look like. I would like to piggyback off of what you said, Miguel, too, that it would have to be what they get out of that 15 minutes in those 3 sessions, as you indicated, because it does make a difference. And you can also see if that man will clam up on you or actually let their guards down. I think when there's transparency is very important in therapy. Not saying that the therapists have to disclose their entire life, but what you did, Miguel, with the introduction is my mama was like your mama. Okay, without you having to break down your mother's name, where she come from, you didn't have to do any of that. You took the simplistic things that most Black people will identify, is when a street light comes on, where do you go? And everyone knows that you're going to make it home. You know what happens if you get in trouble in the neighborhood? Who gets you first? Usually the neighbor, and then all of a sudden it's your parents know what's going on. So you know, we know these commonalities, and those simplistic things break the ice in therapy. And it doesn't even matter what gender, if we really want to break it down to that. It depends on how you're presenting as the therapist that's sitting in front of this person, or let's just say clinician, because that covers all of us, right? So that clinician in front of them is who they have to get comfortable with. And let us also flip it on the other side. You as a therapist have to be comfortable with that client, and you got to be careful too. You don't want codependency, because if they begin to depend on you, then the relationship is no longer therapeutic. They have crossed over that line. And then you also have to think about, what did they pick up on, or what did I present to have them walk through the door that way, where codependency is something that they want to do. So, you know, as clinicians, it's, you know, we're constantly have to assess as we're talking to, you know, our clients. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. It can change at different
Absolutely.
stages. You know, just how we had the stages of change, pre-contemplation, contemplation, maintenance. So all of that. So I try to at times will like take notes, and then I'll put that in my DAP, basically to see where they are. And you know, and that can be a document that can be assessed later to actually see, and then for me to look at who I'm working with, and now I can add into my toolkit some of the things that you gave us, Miguel, because you want to always to make yourself better. I don't want to have outdated information. And right now, this is very informative, because, you know, it is Men's Mental Health Month. But the folks of color, they miss it. And I don't want someone to have a bad experience if I didn't do it right. Always ask questions. You know, if something's not your area of expertise, you know, to work on it, because we got to do our homework too. Because we want this to be a successful exchange, so that we can get to a common goal here of making you better. And sometimes it may that you have to pop in and out. And I will tell someone, you know, as a man, you just getting the tuning up. You know, no shame in this. If you need it right now, and I'm glad that the example that you gave today, so now everyone can hear that. It does not have to be therapy forever. It's what you need to make sure that you can provide whatever services that you're doing. If you're a mental health professional, if you're a man that's working and you get tired, the best part here is you identify the need, that you didn't burn yourself out. Because if you know, a lot of folks that are in the field that are burnt out, a lot of them have PhDs and they just did not take care of themselves. In the helping profession, you have to take care of yourself as well.
Agreed.
Agree.
Here's a question for you also. What if it's your first time going to therapy, and how do you know what to ask for? How do you know?
I think you show up as yourself. You talk about what you're showing up for. And the key here is that that's where you see the partnership begin. Because I talked about hierarchy in families earlier, but as a therapist, I'm not the therapist and you're the client down here. It is a partnership. You're coming to me for a professional service, but we're going to partner in your treatment together in order to
Yes.
get you, empower you, and get you where you need to be. And you are the only one that can determine when that is complete. I will partner with you. I will tell you, you know, or recommend, like, I think that you're doing great. How do you feel about reducing sessions? You know, maybe you're seeing me every week. But ultimately, it is a partnership where your voice is amplified and you are empowered to a place of where you have complete control over your treat. I become a tour guide in your treatment, that you're allowing me in to help guide you through this, because you don't have all the answers. That's why you're coming to see a professional. But I also realize, like Miss Toya said, that I always need to be thinking of ways on how to learn and grow as well. You're the expert in yourself. I'm the professional that you have hired. So we're going to walk this thing together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing. It is a partnership for that, a helping partnership. What to a part of my introduction to those that I see within 15 minutes, I have different language that I use for us that meet us in our community. And those have followed me know that I usually say, it's healing. We're going to go on a healing journey together. I am going to get on the train that you are on. You are actually the conductor. Your train stops. We will pick up tools to get your train running again, because that way they know that they're running the whole thing. You're running it. I'm here because you may need me here and there. Okay. And, I don't overwhelm my clients with a lot of questions either. I'm not sure if that's what you do, Miguel, but I don't. And especially for us, our community, we don't like that. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. It's I think is, and no slight to white clinicians, but white clinicians do that, and they tend to be very judgmental, because when I ask about their history in therapy, I get that person. I felt like the person was talking down to me. I felt like the person didn't understand where I was coming from. I felt like what you said earlier, Miguel. Why am I teaching you about myself? What is this? You can ask something about the background so you can understand me. But when you start possibly throwing in stereotypes and out of nowhere, then that's a problem, because that means it's creeping into my therapy, and that's not where it's supposed to go. Then the other thing that I'm looking at is, do you have biases as the therapist? What makes you talk or ask me questions like that? So I know that there are some good white clinicians out there. I know there are, but I would err on caution, when you are doing therapy with us. So Miguel, I want you to speak on that, like to our colleagues. What is that like if you are talking down to a Black man that you are doing therapy with, and what resistance he will actually show if you are doing that?
Wow. So great question. And my simple answer to that, and the way I practice, is no clipboard, no checklist. Assessment for me is conversational. Just like we're having a conversation here, I'm learning from you all. I'm sure the viewers are taking, away things from here. I have very minimal notes about what I wanted to show up today as my authentic self and really exercise my area of expertise. I have a couple of notes to refer to because I want to know what I'm talking about and be able to refer to them. But what you all are seeing here is no different than how I would present in a session of asking questions, providing information, asking for clarity when I need it, and being able to give you recommendations. So what I would say to our counterparts who are working with Black and Brown people, show up as you.
Yes.
Being an ally means,
Yes.
I sat in a training recently. Rutgers had Rutgers had something, and they talked about holding on to the pole, and that was pivotal for me because holding on to the pole with them was, there was some protest or something that was going on, and the attorney showed up to this protest. And I wish that I didn't plan on telling this story, so I hope I can get it together for this. But the attorney, some woman had climbed up something, was going to tear down a statue. The attorney for the other side was there waiting for her at the bottom, did not know that the police planned on tasing the pole. So what that presenter meant by
Wow.
hold on to the pole is that attorney was a true ally, because he held on to the pole and said, if you do this to the pole, I'm going to, you're also going to try to take me out too.
Mm-hmm.
So you tasing the pole is going to have an impact on me. So he held on to that pole so they could not tase her down from that pole. So being a true ally
Mm-hmm.
is holding on to that pole. That came from Dr. Joy. Dr.
Dr. Joy.
Joy,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Dr. Joy DeGruy.
DeGru. Yes. I like her.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Love her.
Yeah.
Recently read her book, so she, provided that example. But that's what I would suggest to our counterparts. Hold
Yes.
on to that pole. That's what being an ally is. And no checklist, no clipboard. You just show
Mm-hmm.
up. You have the skills. If you are at a place where you're in front of a computer or in an office to see clients, you have the skills that you need. In addition to the skills that you already have, continue to educate yourself. We have an ethical duty to do our continuing education. So if you are a white clinician or anyone, even a black clinician, continue to learn on how to serve our people.
Yes.
Yes.
Most definitely. One of the things that I love to do is, even though I'm the compliance director, I actually am in charge of the trainings. So when I'm doing progress notes, I'm looking at what they have there. Then I'll add something on Reliance Learning. They need this, cultural competency. The third quarter, I do that yearly. I need something culturally. You need to know what's going on. What are the trends? So I'm going to give it to them once a year. And then
Mm-hmm.
also my big thing is Jahari's window. One of the things I was always amazed with that, when I was in my training. It's probably a little dated, but I always say, you know what? You're looking in the mirror. I see who you are, and you see who I am. There's things about you that I don't know. There's things about me that you don't know. But at the end, we wanna focus on the unknown in this relationship. When you leave here and you complete treatment, I want you to know, hey, help me identify something about myself and vice versa. So that's something, I'm sticking to the basics. I love it. So just to put that out to the colleagues, Jahari's window. And now with you guys giving me some other little tools that I want to add to make me, multifaceted, because this is an
Mm-hmm.
experience. And the whole thing here, we are in a helping profession. And I just thank you guys today for this platform, because right now we have to be able to work on a specific population, the men of the brown men. How can we help the
Mm-hmm.
brown men? So thank you, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Diamond.
Mm-hmm. No problem. No problem. But thank you, Miguel. And that's the most important part. And I really appreciate you coming on. But I would like for you to come back again, because we didn't get to our second part of our the show, because I knew this part we were going to delve in. And I'm so happy we had this discussion today about Black men. So before we part today, there are a couple of things I'm going to ask you to do today. One is, again, repeat how the our community and those outside of our community can get in contact with you. Also, it is not a shameless plug, because on this platform you are going to talk about how you are out here to help people and how they can come to you. I want you to do that. And then also your parting words for the Men Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes. So thank you again for having me. I can be found on, so my Instagram handle is Miguel, Miguel underscore L underscore Williams. So again, that's Miguel, my first name, underscore L underscore Williams. I can also be found on Psychology Today. I know that you have provided Dr. Diamond them with the Psychology Today link. I
Mhm.
can also be reached at 609 527 4755. That is my business line, 609 527 4755. I do offer a free 15-minute consultation, and anyone who books with me prior to June 19th will receive 50% off. I've been offering that to clients throughout the month of June in honor of Juneteenth. It's a way for me to give back to our community. Mental health services can be expensive, but they are accessible. Even if the provider that you're looking for, um, even if their rates are, not something that you're comfortable with, because not all people take insurance, right? They
Right.
should be able to assist you and get you to where you need. Ask about sliding scales, ask about those things. So just remember that for the people who may be seeking services, that it should be accessible to you. And if you need assistance with that, there are people here on this call today that can help you with that. Um, my parting words would be monitor your mental. And what I mean by that is there is so much going on. We're on our cell phones, we're on social media, we are consuming things constantly. Take a break when you need it. So monitor your mental and take the breaks that you need, and understand that when you're seeing all of this content everywhere, people are not posting their bad days. We have to know that. Instagram is showing you that vacation, that new car, that new house. They're not showing the mental breakdown the person had from all the overtime they needed to do to purchase those things, or all the debt they may be in to get those things. So we have to know that and remember that.
Mm. Okay, thank you. Toya, your parting words?
I am just grateful and thank you, Miguel, for sharing everything. So we service folks today, and I got served too, because now I know a little bit more about addressing men's health in the brown community. And always remember that, take the step, you're doing the right thing. And even if it's for folks who have done this before, this can be always better. So don't ever go by a past experience. Always be open to the possibilities. And that's my takeaway for our listeners today.
Thank you for that. And so I'm the last to go, of course. And Miguel, again, I'm going to thank you for joining us today. I look forward to booking you again so we can talk about end of life and the transitions and what happens really mentally too with families and what they go through. I think that is a very, very important topic that we need to, delve into. And so, we'll talk again behind the scenes so we can set that up. But for those that have joined us on the couch today, men, Black men, brown men, it is very important that you put your mental health first. This month is about you. This month is telling you, hey, I don't have to be ashamed if I'm feeling overly depressed. I am not ashamed if I'm having panic attacks and seeking out help. I should not be ashamed if I am suffering from schizophrenia. I should not be ashamed if I'm suffering from any other mental health condition. And if I am taking medication, I must be consistent. If I am in therapy, I must remain consistent for it to work. It will not work if you are not consistent. Now, you and your therapist will build, or your clinician rather, will build a helping relationship. Understand your relationship. If the relationship is not what you expect it to be, as Miguel stated today, you have the right to say, you and I are not a fit. And that is there's nothing wrong with that. It's not personal. It is about your mental health. Take care of yourself, because you only get one body, you only get one mind, and that's all you have. And when you're not taking care of that, and you're not thinking about or paying attention to the signs that your body give you, then you are doing yourself a disservice. So I say to the brothers out there, please, I implore you, if you need help, go for it. Miguel Williams is available to you. He provided his information. Miguel's information will be also on our Facebook page. So if you didn't get it shortly as he's talked about it, you will get it, because I will continue to advertise and support. That's what we do on the couch. You don't just join us, you are joining us. So that means you have the opportunity to also spread the word. And I am going to spread the word, as I have been doing behind the scenes as well. Miguel, you are a brilliant young man. And I can hear the passion. I can hear where you're going. I can see it. And that I trust that you have our people in good hands. So yes, I can refer, because I'm confident to know you are going to help them. And we are here for that. So I am opening my arms to you as another clinician to another clinician, like especially a Black clinician. I admire that you came into this field, because it's not a lot of Black men. So I admire you for coming into this field. It is a risk. It is it can be quite judgmental from those that don't look like us, that we're not good enough or we're not doing enough. So I'm telling you, you are doing enough, and you are going to a higher place to do more for our people. So I, implore you that you continue to encourage. I will continue to encourage our family, because they're our extended family out there, that need help. So remember us here on the couch. Join us bi-weekly on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Miguel will be back, so look for our notification when we go live. And again, Miguel, thank you so much for joining us today. Your
Thank you,
information
Miguel.
is spot on. It was great. And those of us that go back, those listeners that will come back, it will be worth it. Okay. And we thank you all again for joining us on the couch. So we always have fun here. We are always authentic here. So again, have a wonderful Juneteenth, your weekend rather, and then the actual celebration, which will be on Wednesday coming up. So do something for our community. Give back. Do something that that you contribute to, Juneteenth. And again, we thank you for joining us on the couch. Have a wonderful Saturday and the rest of your weekend. Take care of everybody. Peace, love, and tranquility.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining on the couch this evening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to contact Dr. Diamond, you may reach her at candidconversations.dr.d@gmail.com. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next show.